Hello, everybody. It is time for AskTom Live here on Facebook and YouTube. It's time to use your imagination. Yes. And for those of you who ever watched SpongeBob SquarePants, you know what I'm talking about. As far as that goes, though, we answer imaginary home improvement questions that are actually real because they come from people like you. So if you're real, the questions are real. There's no doubt about it. But most of the time where I do it the most, and I'm known for it for many, many years, is on Sports Radio 610 on Saturday and Sundays. I answer home improvement questions on HomeShowRadio. And of course, here we do it live on Facebook, YouTube, and all of your questions we'll take care of. The questions we answer here usually come from our website, although you can still participate. Of course, Saturdays from 9 to, well, let's start with Garden Pros in front of me. Before I go on Saturdays, it is Garden Pros from 7 to 9. And then 9 to 11 when I do Home Show Radio on Saturdays. And Sundays 8 to 11 on Sports Radio 610 in the Houston, Texas area, as well as you can stream it, podcast it, whatever you do at HomeShowRadio.com. And Charlie Mosier, who's with me right now, is also a facilitator on Sunday morning when we answer more of your questions from Home Show Radio.
I'm just curious, the whatever you do part.
Whatever
I'm intrigued.
you do.
Like, what else would one do?
I don't know.
Wow.
I'm sure if we used our imagination, we could do all kinds of things.
Well, maybe they go up to West Road where the transmitter is in Houston and kind of like hook something onto the barbed wire and try to pick it up that way. That could be another way to go.
I mean, today you got Starlink. It's made the news quite a bit with my buddy Elon. You've got all these different people.
Your buddy. You guys are friends now.
Well, we work together in a weird way. I train his welders for SpaceX down in Boca Chica, or we test them right now, and we're putting together a training program for him. So I hope to meet him someday, yeah.
Of all the places in Texas, they pick a place called Boca Chica.
Boca Chica Beach, right next to South Padre Island.
Sounds like a place in a Seinfeld episode.
No, that's Boca Vista. I think that's what it was.
Boca Vista. That's right.
Boca Vista.
All right.
Yep.
Hey, but you know what we're doing here though is we're answering the questions you send us at HomeShowRadio.com. Plus, because you are you and you're special, you can also put your questions in the comment section below, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you're watching us. Put them on there if you're on the Home Show Facebook page or the YouTube Facebook Home Show channel. You can put them on in there, and that's what we're going to do. And before we get to that, of course, we always cover important breaking news around the corner and up your block about home improvements. And Tom, I don't know if you heard the breaking news today, but there's some major home improvement project going on downtown. That's right,
Houston,
April 8th,
Texas. Okay.
April 8th, the Astros open up against the Oakland A's. That's right, baseball's back, and here's the best part about it. There is actually going to be a full, well, get that logo out of there. Look at that, a full 162-game season, too. So they're not going to truncate the season. They're going to be some full 9-inning doubleheaders built into it to make up for the games that they've missed, and we will have baseball.
I thought they cut back some games. Is that just certain teams?
No, I
thought I read something.
What I read right before we came on is that they found a way to
okay, because I read that about a week ago.
There you go.
Okay, cool.
April 8th, just so you know.
My grandmother's
the season
birthday.
actually opens April 7th, but opening day at Minute Maid is April 8th. So there you go. And that is what's in the news today.
That was it?
That's it.
Okay.
What do you mean
All
that's
right.
it? What do you mean that's it? You realize that the national pastime has been held hostage by a bunch of rich guys, and finally it was freed. So,
are you talking about the NFL?
No. The NFL players would like to make what MLB players make. Trust me. But yeah, no. The game is back, and we're off to another season.
Well, it's a good time of spitting on the ground and grabbing your crotch.
No spitting.
Go baseball.
No spitting, and they got, because of COVID, they got rid of spitting, and they
really good.
Yeah, they got rid of spitting, and they got rid of the sunflower seeds. So at least during COVID,
That's
maybe
right.
they're going to bring that back. They were supposed to stop using masks March 18th and push that back to April 18th now. So we'll see on airplanes.
Oh, yeah. I was on
There
one the
hasn't
other
been
day.
spitting on airplanes in quite a while. So anyway, all right.
There has. You just don't see it.
Right.
Okay,
Hey, Joe was weighing in. Joe Wiggins is watching. Joe, it's good to see you. Yes, he says they're going to make up canceled games
there you
with
go.
double headers. And none of these, what Zach 2 calls, none of these high school double headers. They're going to be real 9-inning double headers. So, yay.
Well,
baseball.
now that we're doing a sports show,
We're not.
okay, I have
I'm
nothing
sorry.
else to add to that. Just,
Well, I
okay.
figured, we're home improvements, and there's a home base.
Well, I got a sports radio right behind me here on my
There you
wall.
go.
So
All right,
sports
there you
radio.
go. I've got extra bats back there, so we're good to go.
You do. All right.
All right, let's get to the questions that you send us at HomeShowRadio.com with that
Please.
Ask Tom button, please.
Yes.
All right, sorry, Tom. I'll put you out of your misery. He says, Manny writes to us, and what's the best way to locate the what periodic maintenance, if anything, should a homeowner perform on a water softener or a water heater? He has no known issues though, Tom, but he'd like to keep it that way. What's your advice?
If you have a water softener, which should take no maintenance unless it breaks, and then you have to have it fixed, like let's say for a common one, a timer would go out or something like that, and you have to have a new timer put in. Or it just runs to the end of its life and you have to replace it. But as far as a regular maintenance, besides making sure, and don't fill it all the way to the top, just keep a little bit of salt in the bottom. You won't have any problems with a water softener if it's a good one. As far as that, if you have a water softener, there should be nothing you need to do to a water heater. So they both run hand in hand. So the answer is nothing. How's that?
Wow.
I don't know what else to say.
Wow, hey,
It's
an
true.
incredibly truncated Tom Tynan answer. I was actually brewing some tea, and I was expecting you to go on.
Oh, do you want to go longer? Well, back in 1953, before I was born. No, we won't go that way. Okay.
Okay. All right, fair enough. All right, so
Yes.
bottom line is get a water softener. If you don't, then you're probably only going to get about 10 years out of your water heater.
Yeah, it depends. I'm not going to say it because somebody could be
That's
watching
true.
this in
They could live
Wisconsin.
somewhere with soft water like New York or somewhere
Yeah.
where they get more years.
Upstate
out
New
of it.
York, that's all softened water. In fact, it's they have to deal with it differently. I used to live up there, and it was a whole different issue. But as far as the water softener, just for everybody that has one, the biggest mistake you can make is to keep your salt tank totally full. Don't do that. What'll happen is it'll harden in the bottom, and then you have to dig all that salt out and clean out the whole tank. Just put no more than 2 bags and just keep a little salt in the bottom until you see it almost run out. Then add a bag. Now, if you don't want to have, to bring bags in every once in a while, then put a bunch of bags somewhere around the house, but don't dump them in the brine tank. That's how people ruin a water softener.
Are you listening, Sandy? Okay.
Just saying.
Just saying. All right. David in West Columbia says, I have a house on pilings and I want to insulate underneath the house.
Yep.
I can walk under it. It's almost like 7 feet under it, he says. I have a bid calling to cover the whole insulation up under the house to keep wildlife out using plywood. Will there be consequences for doing that?
No, it's done all the time. I had a house down in Galveston Island. It was all plywooded. We put some nice furring strips over the edges. It painted it. It looked great. So go ahead and you don't want critters and stuff up under there. Now, if you ask me, would I insulate on like say Galveston Island? No, I would just leave it with the plywood just to make it look nicer. And you only have to do that on the areas that you actually get under and see. Like if you park your car, you want to finish sealing underneath there, because a lot of people use underneath their homes, those piling homes, for places to sit, barbecue, and do different things. Put lights and ceiling fans and things like that. So as far as that goes, plywood is fine. I wouldn't insulate it at all if it's somewhere like Galveston. I'm not sure I caught where this house was, but if it's in
West
a colder
Columbia.
climate, West Columbia, Texas.
Yep.
Okay, if it's in Texas, then you probably don't need to do it at all. So I'll leave it this way for all the people watching. If it's a cold climate, go ahead and insulate. If it's a hot climate and all you worry about is air conditioning, underneath one of those homes, there's no heat gain. Just let it stay open under there as far as before you put the plywood on. Don't put any insulation in there, and just put the plywood on there. You'll get some insulation quality, but at the same time, you won't have any areas where moisture will get trapped.
I would think it's more of an issue, I guess, if it's a year-round kind of thing and it gets cold in the winter.
Exactly. Yeah,
you don't have
and
cold
like
floors.
summer home, and it does get colder. So, But either way, if you do it, just unfaced fiberglass, plywood, you're good.
All right.
Keep it simple.
All right, fair enough. Todd's in Lake Jackson, and he says, we just put in an electric tankless water heater, and when the hot water runs for a couple minutes, it will then fluctuate to lukewarm. This is happening to all the faucets, including the tubs and the showers. Could you tell me possibly why this is happening?
Probably one of two things. Probably if it's just happened since you put this water heater in, then you're not getting enough flow. So you're turning the hot water on and then you're cutting it down with the cold water so it cuts the flow down. The other thing is you could have a faucet inside the house where, I think Alan calls it a water sandwich. I always called it a bleed through, but you have the hot and cold water that are mixing inside the valve and making everything turn lukewarm. So it's one of those two things. A Moen faucet is notorious for that. And to see if that's the problem, and a Moen faucet usually in the kitchen, and it's always going to be a single handle faucet. If you have something like that in your house, go under the sink and turn the stops off, close the stops underneath there. And then if it doesn't do that anymore, then it's the faucet problem. If it happens throughout and it's going on and off and heating and not, then it's probably the limit switch and you're not getting enough flow through the water heater. So which means is you shouldn't mix it with cold. You should just turn it on full blast, set the temperature the way you want it, especially when you're taking a shower, and don't add any cold to it to knock it down. With an on-demand, you don't have to do it, and then you get more full flow through there.
This isn't a matter of the limit switch on that water heater. Is it possible that it's set wrong or needs to be adjusted?
It's going to be a limit switch problem, but the most common thing is if it's new, it's because people are using them like it's an old tanked water heater where they have it turned up way too high, so they turn it on, and then they start to turn on the cold water and make the temperature more comfortable for their skin. And you're dropping the temperature about 30 degrees, so you have more cold water coming through than hot water, and then so it slows the flow down, and the limit switch will start, because you have it so hot, it'll start to turn it off so it doesn't burn up the water heater.
The hot water, those tankless water heaters was all the rage for a while. But it seems like, by the time you factor in how much it costs to convert to one and all the work you have to do to put it in, you probably have to stay in the house a long time before that pays itself back.
I never looked at it as a big payback. When we used to put them in people's homes, and the reason is because we wanted them to have all the hot water they ever wanted and never call back and say, hey, you put this tank in and we've got 10 people at our home and people are running out of hot water for their showers. So it's a convenience thing. If you need a lot of hot water and it's unlimited, then you use the on-demands. Now that's on new homes. Existing homes, it's a lot easier just to put a tank in. And if you've had good results with the tanks, and the new tanks have a very fast recovery, then you usually end up with all the water you want. And if you have a need for more, you can always put a small booster that will be a post heat and keep it hot when you start to run down on your hot water out of the tank. And that's the way I did my home. But it's usually done on when it's new construction with only an on-demand. But it's not an energy saver. What it is it's an unlimited water giver. Or if you don't go into the house for months on a time and you don't use, or months at a time, and you don't use the hot water, then you don't keep anything hot and you don't have to mess with a tank that gets rancid in there and things like that. So there's other reasons for them, but it's not a huge payback energy saver. Last comment on that though, if you really wanted to, and if the Green New Deal people were smart and they really wanted to save a huge amount of energy in this country, half of the country, not all of it, but half of it should convert to a backup solar heater system, which only costs maybe $600 to buy one. It's just a panel with a tank that goes either in your backyard or you can put it on the roof. And we could cut our electric costs in half of the country 25% on all electric homes by using those. And you know why they don't do it, Charlie? Because nobody can make any money doing it. You can buy them online for anywhere from $300 to $600.
I'm going back to what you said earlier. You said, if they were smart. So what you're saying is they're not smart?
I don't know. That's all I got to say.
And to be clear, you're talking about a solar hot water solar water heater, not
That's
solar
true.
power on the house. Two different animals.
No, it's a panel.
Right.
I used to, in 1985, I was the director of the Environmental Center at Miami-Dade Community College. I was young, I had hair, and I was really pretty. I had just gotten out of college. I was 20-some years old.
You're 2 out of 3.
Oh, okay. Anyway, we had a class that we would come on Saturdays, and we would have our students, we'd buy the little kits, and they would pay a fee. We'd explain all about solar water heating systems from swimming pools to just homes. And they would build their own solar water heater, take it home, and they would either have a plumber hook it up, which was simple, or they would do it. And it was nothing. And so it's been there forever, solar water heaters. All it is one panel with a little tank on top. As the sun hits it, the water rises up the solar panel into the tank. It keeps circulating until you draw from it, and then it draws into your tank in your home and feeds it, so your tank never comes on when you start showering. And the worst thing about it is the water is so hot, you have to be able to really knock it down with cold water because you use so little of it, because it gets almost to boiling. It can get really hot in those things. My son just put one on in Santa Fe in his new house, and he was going to do all these solar panels. I said, son, don't do that. You're not going to get your money back. He has an all-electric home. He put this solar water heater on. It cut his bill tremendously. He loves it. It's a little tiny panel on the roof of his house.
Not solar water, not solar power.
That's right. Solar water heater.
Okay.
It heats water.
No, I'm
It's
with
easy.
you. Hey, Joe, by the way, he also weighed in. He says he misses hearing you on a San Antonio radio station.
Hey, Joe, those were good days on KTSA. I really enjoyed San Antonio. It is one of my favorite cities. I love Texas. I work all over Texas. And I had some good times there when it was small-time radio, not owned by the big conglomerates. And it was a wonderful place to work with a lot of good people.
Waterman Broadcasting. I remember those days.
Waterman, Bernie. Was it Bernie Waterman?
Bernie
I met him a
Waterman,
few
yeah.
times. What a
those are the
nice, sweet man. He was really a nice guy.
When I started in radio, the owner was at the end of the hall. By the time I made it to the big time, they were in a corporate office, and by the time I got out of radio, they were God only knows where. So the business changed a lot. But here's the good news, Joe. We are on a San Antonio radio station, and it's called the Interweb. You can stream us anytime you want. You take your phone, you take your computer, or anything else, go to HomeShowRadio.com, hit listen, and you can hear us over there just as easy as you're hearing us anywhere else on the planet. We are restricting that to planet Earth and the International Space Station only, though. If you're traveling interstellar, it will not be possible to.
So I'm going to give a shout out to a guy that I worked with over there. I don't know if he's still on the air or not. He was one of the best gardening people I ever worked with on radio. His name was Webster, I do believe. Charlie, I can't remember his first name, but he was such a nice guy to work with. I hope he's still on the air doing
Webster? Well. Oh, that's a different Webster. Okay,
no, there's a different one.
Okay, there's an obscure 80s TV reference for you right there. All right.
Yeah, no kidding.
We got another question for you. Debbie in Sienna Plantation says, I have a wooden front door that needs to be adjusted due to the home settling. The bottom left corner and the upper right corner have small gaps that allow air in. What's your advice on getting this fixed?
I think you can call a company out to do it. There are weather stripping companies that'll come out, readjust the door, put in new weather strip so it fits it. It doesn't have to be all taken down and rehung and go through all that. And you don't have to buy a new door. So I would, wherever you are locally, you can Google it in your area, in the Houston area. I used to use a company, and I don't know if they're still there. This is not a solicitation. They're a great family. It was called Holscher's Weather Strip. And that's all they did was they went around and they sold weather strip products. They would come to people's homes and do it. When I built new homes, I would buy all my exterior doors with no weather stripping. I would have my carpenters, who were the framers, they would hang the exterior doors and just hang everything. And at the very end, because I didn't want to get them all boogered up and we wanted to get all the paint done and everything, so it looked nice, I would have Holschers come in and weather strip and threshold every single door and fit it up just beautiful with the lock sets and whatever they needed to make it really nice. And that was practice in the homes that I built for people because it made a better quality job.
I don't have any. I'm just wondering if the house is shifting that much. If she doesn't want to have just replace that whole door unit.
You could. You can replace the whole door unit if you need to, but a lot of times you don't.
Just weather stripping will make up that kind of difference?
Well, they adjust the door too. You have hinge issues and stuff, Charlie, so I don't want just everybody to go out and buy a new door.
Well, that's kind
If they love the door, it's all in good shape.
And I don't want people thinking you just get some weather stripping and it fixes the problem either.
Oh, I never said that. I said you have it adjusted. I use that word. And you have it weather stripped after it's adjusted. Because when you rough hang a door, it'll do all kinds of weird stuff. The hinges need to be set properly, and it's a little art to doing it. I used to do it when I was in college for people. I made money going to school, put myself through school doing a lot of doors like that. But if you need a new door, since I think Charlie wants me to say this and he was figuring out how, I always like to say it because a new door can be bought at a very cheap price at Door Clearance Center if you're in the Houston area. But then we have people in San Antonio too watching, so I want them to make sure they know what to do also.
It's worth a drive from anywhere. Okay.
Okay, I don't know if I'm going to go from San Antonio, but you can. You know what? Do they ship online today? They just might.
They might. But yeah, no, I wasn't even looking for that.
Oh, okay.
I was more, the thing about adjusting the door went by quick, and I just wanted to make sure people understood that.
Okay, but you know the other thing is foundation repair. What if it's so bad that it's not the door at all, that the whole foundation is moving? You have cracks above it. Your windows are sticking. It's not just one door, it's several. So yeah, it can be as simple as doing a weather strip like we were talking about. And I don't mean buying that stuff on the shelf that's all sticky and people, they sell the weirdest stuff.
That's where
not
I was
what
going.
I'm getting at.
Yep.
Okay, it's done professionally. If you watch when these guys come out, there's a cushion bronze I used to order. And they have all these little nail guns and these little parts and pieces that go around the locks differently, down at the bottom to shed water away when it goes out. It's quite an art when you see it done right.
We had that very company come out to our first house right after my son John was born to fix our door. And he was putting a Baldwin lock in. He was doing a bunch of stuff. We had bought a door at the ASID garage sale, which, by the way, when you're up at Sci-Fair, I haven't got the details here, but the GHBA, the Remodelers Council, is having their big garage sale when you go up to Sci-Fair for that home improvement show. And
that's on the 29th, I think.
Right.
29th
right.
of this month.
Just so you know. But anyway, and we'll talk more about that next week. But point is, he came in to put that in. He had all that copper or bronze, and he was going around doing that thing.
It's not copper, it's bronze. Yeah.
I know. I corrected myself. Anyway.
No, it's fine.
My son John toddles up to him, and he's kind of looking at him, and he starts looking at what he's doing because he's got everything all laid out. He looks at my wife and points at my son and says, "This isn't going to work." So John got to go into the neglectomatic, and away we went.
I understand that one. Yes.
They did great work. Hey, Jimmy John has got a question. He's a regular listener, a regular viewer.
Hello, Jimmy John.
If I have exposed ends of my post-tension cable in my foundation, do I need to do anything about that?
Yes, they should not be exposed. They should be cut off. They should be, if they're really rusty but not broken yet, then wire brush them off, hit them with some rusty metal primer, and then they need to be grouted over the top. So the answer is definitely yes. What'll happen is if they're exposed, and they're usually underground just so you can't see them, but you'll see a little crater that they're in, they'll rust away, and once they rust and that connection rusts out, they'll snap, and then you'll start to lose your tension in your slab. It was not completed properly. Post-tension slabs, when they're done, and hopefully done right, I'm not a big fan of them. They put them in, they tension them, they leave all those cables hanging out, they finish the house, they retension it if they do it right, make sure everything is just the way it needs to be, copacetic, so to speak, and then they're supposed to snip the ends off and grout all over the tops of them, so you see these little patch holes down the side of the slab, usually just about under grade, so when they fill back up, you don't see a lot of it. You might just see some half moons on top. But if it's not done, and it's not done with a lot of builders that skip that step, they just put dirt up against it and hope nobody notices, it can be a problem. And it's something that you'll find our friends at Due West Foundation Repair have to deal with quite a bit. So if you have a problem with that gets bad, make sure you call them.
All right. Got one more question for you before we land this plane, Tom. This one's pretty
Okay.
straightforward. Stephanie lives in Clear Lake City, and she's looking at that carved stone, which is, I guess, one of those overlays. It's an example of it where they carve it up. She wants to know what do you think of this product to cover an existing patio concrete slab that's in good shape and does not need leveling? I guess so. The question is, what do you think of these overlays and that one? I mean, in general.
Yeah, Carved Stone did a great job marketing, so a lot of people use that name. It's kind of like Kleenex when it's really tissue, and there's a lot of companies that make tissue, but everybody calls it Kleenex, so they did a good job with that. There are a lot of different coatings out here, but here's the key to that particular question. If you have concrete, not necessarily level, but right where you want it, there's no cracks in it, there's no toe stumpers that you want to try to fill and put stuff on there from trees and try to hide it all, then it's a great option. Any of those coatings that you find, they all kind of came down from the commercial end of the industry, and they're used in residential all the time. I have my front patio done by one that, it's not a carved stone product, but it was a coating. I don't even know the name of it. It was a friend of mine that did it, and he made it look like a stone, so we have a slate-looking pattern on there. But it can be done very easily and very well. It's all about what you put it on. People want to hide bad concrete, and that's not what it's about. It's about to putting a surface on good concrete is the way you want it to look. And the sky's the limit on the different options they have out there. So there's a lot of companies that do it.
This one in particular, if it's the true carved stone, what makes it different is that when they do the initial one, they put the initial finish down, then they lay the stone coating over it. Then they come back and they hand cut, so you have this more random stone feel to it. And I don't know what they do after that. I have a short attention span. That's as much as I remember. But but it's another way of going at those. We did. I know you've had it done, Tom. We had it done here at our office. And the one thing I would tell you about those coatings is, remember, they can be slippery when wet.
Depends what you get. That's what the carve of the grout, how they put it in there. Mm-hmm. Just like a shower, the more grout lines you have, the more your feet can hold. So you got to take a look at that and be careful with shiny surfaces because they do get slippery, Charlie. And there are things they can do if you bring that up to the people.
Right.
And by the way, at the last home show, I don't remember his name, and he kind of was upset I didn't. But one of the original guys from Carvestone came up and said hello to me.
Tico?
And I don't remember.
Yeah.
I get in those home shows, I have all these people going
up. I can't remember his first name off the top
I don't know. He had no hair and a beard. That's all I remember because so many people were there. So I have a hard time remembering the home show when I leave.
He used to be with Allied, and then they did that. And I think he owns a piece of Home Mag, too. So, but anyway.
I don't know. He was walking around up there in Montgomery County. But anyway, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry I missed him. He's a nice guy.
If he sees it. Yeah.
He's a nice guy. I wish I could remember his name.
Yeah. It was like 20 years ago. Okay, anyway.
Yeah, 20 years ago when Tom had already been on the air 15 years, like
15
you will
years.
Be this weekend on the radio.
Yes, I will. From 9 to noon on Saturday and 8 to 11 on Sunday, answering your home improvement questions. I'll be doing it from my home in Houston because, as many people know, I travel a lot because I work the state of Texas, not in radio, but doing other things also. But also before me on Saturday is the Garden Pro Show, where you have all kinds of different experts come in and talk about gardening with Sandy, the host. So it's a good show for you to go ahead and tune into.
And before we go, very important, just in case you didn't know, April 8th.
Oh, no, baseball again. Charlie didn't have a lot of time to prepare for this time.
No,
so
I had a bunch of stuff prepared, but really, the end.
Okay, you know where Charlie's priorities are. Yes, that's right.
It'll be interesting to see how the season goes with no spring training. So that'll be kind of fun to watch. So anyway, that'll do it for us. We will be back again next Thursday at about this same time with a special guest. Next week, we're going to be joined by Jake from AirTech. AirTech is the company that merged Absolute Comfort Air merged with to give a larger footprint of service in the Houston area. And he's going to be on the show with us next week to talk about what they're doing, and you can get to know him. I'd love to say they're one of our new home show pros, but really they've taken
that's just another owner to a good company. And I thought it was going to be Jake from State Farm. Okay.
No, Jake from
anyway,
State
it'll
Farm
be
wasn't
Jake from
available.
AirTech.
Yeah, he wasn't
fine.
available, but anyway. Anyway, so we'll see you next Thursday at 4 o'clock Central here on Facebook and YouTube Live.
Got a question? Ask Tom on Home Show Radio. Home Show Radio. Free advice from a pro who knows. Home Show